Good morning. FPL is finally back. We are, hour and 29 minutes away from the Gameweek 30 deadline, and then there shouldn't be any missed deadlines for a good few weeks after that. No international breaks or anything like that to worry about. And I'm joined by Ted this morning to talk through everything about our teams, thoughts on Bale, Man City, all that good stuff, international break minutes in general. How you feeling?
I'm doing good, mate. I'm not sure I know what FPL is anymore because that international break was so long. I miss league football, so I'm really happy it's back and looking forward to get back into the FPL.
Yeah, I kind of the same. I think I was saying to Neil or something yesterday. I like the break, but I also like it when it comes back. And it did, even for me, it felt long. This break. So yeah, it's good to get back to it.
Even like during lockdown and everything, like huge reliance on football for entertainment. So really, really happy it's back.
Yeah, I see someone in the chat saying, wow, on time. As if I would ever miss the start time of a stream. Come on. All right, we're just going to jump straight into it because there is quite a few talking points, like I said, around Bale, De Bruyne. And as always, our teams are kind of directing the conversation because, as you're going to see right now, Ted owns Gareth Bale. And just a reminder, I had to remind myself before we started, so I have free hit. That's the only chip I have left. And Ted has no chip. So obviously that is going to... For both of us, that is going to change our thinking around players. Obviously, if you've got a wild card next week, it's completely different to what you're thinking about this week. So just bear that in mind when you hear us talking about getting rid of players that you might not want to get rid of, etc., etc. So this is your team. As I think most people's teams look pretty good this week because they're all left over from game week 29, and a lot of the fixtures in 29 are also good for 30. But you have Gareth Bale, who is potentially an issue. We don't know. You've got no chip, so you've got to think, I guess, carefully about it. What is your... You've not made any transfers this week yet either, right?
No, I'm rolling the transfer. I'm planning to anyway, unless someone can convince me to get rid of Bale. Yeah, it's an interesting one. I'm fresh off a minus 16 from the free hit, but I sort of made it with sort of future-proofing in mind, and I can't pretend that I brought in Spurs players ahead of a double game week 32, so I lucked into that a little bit. So Gareth Bale, yeah. Obviously, I brought him in last week because Son was injured, and now he missed out in 29, so that turned out to be a really rubbish transfer. But it all hinges on what seems to be his relationship with Mourinho and whether Mourinho is comfortable starting him. I don't see why he wouldn't. So part of me is going, well, I'm just going to keep him because if I keep him and he doesn't play, then it sort of forces my decision next week, and I'll just go Bale to Son for the ahead of the double game week 32. But if I keep him and he plays, and it turns out like it's a really good decision, and I haven't done anything, and I can just keep Bale for 32, and I've not wasted a transfer. On the other hand, Son could really punish against Newcastle because it seems like he's going to play. But certainly the press conferences said that. Bale has the capacity to do really well, just in general. He's a top-class player. But it does worry me that he missed out against Villa in 29. But he played 3 of the internationals for Wales. He started 2, he came on in one of them. He's seemingly, fit enough to play, multiple games in a row. I just don't see why that would be a reason why he would be left out. So it would be more fundamental with the manager for me.
The interesting thing on that manager thing, and someone you can correct me if I'm wrong. And okay, someone's saying I'm muted. I think they're winding me up. We're definitely not muted. You can correct me if I'm wrong. The chat can correct me if I'm wrong. But I don't. Interesting enough, the Bale comments that he made during the international break, or was it just before? I can't remember. But basically along the lines of, and I'm paraphrasing a lot, that he joined, his contract was always to go back. There is no deal in place to stay at Spurs, which, to be fair, is factually correct, right? It's a weird thing to say, I think, but I don't really know what the line of questioning was or why he was talking about it, to be honest. But I don't think Mourinho talked about it at all. I don't think I think all the speculation was around the media putting that Kane should leave. Keane was talking about the fact that Kane should leave, and that's really what he got questioned on. So we're not really sure what the situation is there. Here's the thing for you though, just to play some mind games. Neil has not put Bale in his predicted lineup. He's put Lucas Moura in, which I think is fair. I think Lucas Moura at this point has kind of played himself into a starting spot, and obviously Son and Kane. So there's only one more space, and Lucas Moura would have to play 10. for Bale to come in. So Neil has put Lucas Moura on the right where Bale would play, and he's put Lo Celso at number 10. Okay, here's a question for you. Let's say he starts against Newcastle, doesn't start against Man United. Then what do you do for the double?
Well, I'd probably keep just because of the rotation stuff. But yeah, it's very strange what the media came out with. But I'm just going to go with the international break is a really long time to cover interesting stories, and the media definitely exaggerate things to get some clicks. And it's just a strange time for Bale to say, "I'm going to go back to Real Madrid in the summer." It's not going to help his positive image with the Spurs fans, with the rest of the locker room. And I just don't see any relevance to it. It seems a bit weird. And his comments about, I don't know why Mourinho's not starting me. I'm ready to play as many minutes as I possibly can. Trying to encourage the manager, mainly in the public eye, to force him to play some more minutes. And maybe that's probably going to head Mourinho in the other way.
Yeah, but I feel like he's not the boss to do that with.
Yeah, exactly.
The thing is as well, it's not even... it's not a situation. Sometimes you get a player and the manager really doesn't want to play them, but they're on a massive contract or something like that. It's a bit like, I guess, Pogba kind of. He's on a massive contract. You can't just leave him out forever. It's not the same with Bale. He's going back to Real Madrid after this season. So I don't know. For what it's worth, for most people who have Bale, I think keeping this week is not the worst decision, because if he does play, you're happy. And if he doesn't, you've got an easy decision next week. I do think long term, though, if he starts getting reduced minutes or starts missing another odd game, then it's a bit frustrating. And the thing is, I guess it depends what you're doing in game week 33. But Spurs do have pretty good fixtures after the blank as well. They've got all round good fixtures. So what's your plan for game week 33 with no free hit?
So, if Bale starts this week, I'll have 3 playable Spurs assets in game week 32. So I think it would just be my job to save up 2 free transfers for 33 and then transfer 1 or 2 of the Spurs guys out, so I can easily bench the likes of De Bruyne and Kane in game week 33. And there's some fixture swings there. Liverpool have a really, really good end to the season, and it could be a good switch to the likes of maybe Salah if he starts firing again. I'm not going to triple up on Spurs for the rest of the season from 33. So 1, maybe 2 is what I'm going to go with. And it's probably going to be Kane.
Good stuff. Yeah, I mean, Kane makes sense. All right, I'm going to have 2 more questions for you before we move on to my team. 1, what's your current thoughts around kind of Man City being rotated this week, if not this week, against Leeds? So for anyone that doesn't know, and I'm sure everyone does at this point, they're playing Leicester this week. Then it's Dortmund, I think, in the Champions. It's Dortmund, right? They've got Haaland and co in the Champions League. Then it's Leeds in the Premier League. Then straight away it's the second leg of Dortmund. So for any team, I think we would see some rotation, let alone for Man City. You've only got Kevin De Bruyne. Are you worried about a start this week or in 31? And what's your long-term plans?
Like with City, the fact that Pep is going to rotate is not any news, is it? So
I guess it kind of is for certain players. Like De Bruyne doesn't get rotated that often. Like when he's fit, he tends to play, and he actually missed Champions League earlier in the season to carry on playing every game in the Premier League. So I think for him it's a little bit different. But I agree. Obviously, with Man City they do rotate a lot, but Kevin De Bruyne is a different one, I think.
So I think always the best remedy to deal with Man City assets is to decide what you want to do with them, whether you want to have 3 or whether you want to have 1, and just stick to that long term. And then you're not going to get hurt by rotation, but most of the time, as in if you pick the players that are going to play most of the time and subject to the odd rotation, long term, you're not going to be that hurt. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just going to pick De Bruyne. Not going to worry about the City defence for the time being because of the difficult fixtures. And De Bruyne is going to play most of the games. And I'm just not going to worry about it. I'm just going to keep him till the end of the season. A lot of people have Gundogan, a lot of people have Cancelo, the likes of Diaz and Stones. Absolutely fine. If you want to keep 3 of them and make sure you have a suitable bench for 33, I think that's also perfectly acceptable. But you just need to just manage your expectations. You're owning the best team in the league. But the caveat is that some of those players will get rotated. Okay, as long as you accept that.
Well, here's a question for you then. So I'm looking at your team, and I know that Spurs play Man United in game week 31. So I'm going to guess you're probably not going to captain a player from that fixture. And and Rafinha's fixture's not great. I can't remember what West Ham's is. I think it's okay. But De Bruyne definitely has your best fixture in game week 31. So let's say he plays 90 against Leicester, 90 against Dortmund. would you captain him against Leeds?
Yeah, absolutely.
You would,
I
yeah?
just don't.
Big
Yeah,
upside.
of course. 100%. I just don't buy that De Bruyne is going to get rotated every other game. He's going to start playing in the Champions League and not in the league and stuff. I just don't buy it. He's an absolute machine. We've talked about this in the past. Like he just recovers quickly from huge amounts of energy. So yeah, I just don't see why we should overthink that. It's going to be a bit tricky because Liverpool have Aston Villa, so that Salah could be a captaincy,
and then Leeds. They have Villa, then Leeds. I mean, I've talked about it so much. Their fixture run's ridiculous, like Liverpool.
It's really weird, isn't it? Because we're the fixture swings that are happening now, like Arsenal, Liverpool, are teams that are a little bit unpredictable, a little bit unreliable at the moment. And we need a little bit more evidence before we start really heavily investing in those teams. I like maybe one or two, like Tierney, and maybe, I don't know, Salah or Jota even for Liverpool. But I need a little bit more evidence before I get excited about buying those players. I think the only team that has a really good fixture run at the right now until the end of the season that I'm really happy owning is West Ham assets, Antonio Lingard and maybe like Cresswell or someone. But it's a strange time, isn't it? All of the heavily owned teams don't have great fixtures. So lots of change afoot, I reckon.
Yeah, hence the wild card next week, right? We'll come on. We'll talk about captain in a minute because I'm captaining Kane as well. This is my team. I got to be honest. I also have De Bruyne and I have Gundogan, and I'm not as confident as you. I think they've got a chance of both starting this week, and I think against Leeds, there's gonna. I don't know. I feel like there has to be a rotation. But the only thing that's kind of making me a little bit happy about having to play him that week is Bielsa, and I feel like Pep definitely wants to get one over on him. I feel like he's the type, like he's just seen as one of these great managers in the league, and Pep wants to. I mean, he wants to win every game, of course, but I don't know. Bielsa's just one of those guys, and also they didn't get the win in the first game, which they probably should have. At least they should have put the game to bed quite early on, and they didn't. And then they let Leeds get back into. I mean, how much of that really comes into a manager's thinking when he's got a Champions League to win? I doubt it's that much. But yeah, I'm a little bit worried about De Bruyne. Like I've still got my free hit, so holding 2 Spurs, I might bring in a third one, and I've got 2 City. Is not the end of the world. And the question mark I have is Gundogan versus Antonio this week. You think I should swap, don't you?
Yeah, that's what I said. I think Antonio against Wolves, who in the past they've been good defensively, but they haven't been firing. I think he's got a good chance, and he's been great for XG, all of the stats over the last 6, over the last 8. He's been excellent, and he's got that partner in crime, Lingard, who's been really, really good as well. So I just don't see why Antonio wouldn't fire against Wolves. Gundogan, there is worry about him missing out because of his 3 games that he played for Germany over the international break. But again, like De Bruyne, he seems to recover quite quickly, and he's a favourite in Pep's team, and he's become important in that role. So I think both will start probably, and it just goes down to which fixture you like better.
Yeah, that's the thing for me. I actually think the community in general is underrating Wolves' defence a little bit. I actually think they're a little bit better than people are giving them credit. They haven't, apart from Man City, and who doesn't concede goals against Man City, they haven't conceded more than 1 goal since Gameweek 20, and that includes playing Liverpool, Leeds in there as well, Arsenal, Leicester. They drew 0-0 with. So I haven't checked the specific expected data for all those fixtures, but yeah, I feel like I think Wolves is a little bit underrated player against Leicester than a West Ham versus Wolves. What the hell? The stream has just died.
Oh, I've got you back. You died for a little bit.
That's so weird. Hopefully we're just back now. I'm like, yeah. It did that like a couple of weeks ago. It just completely went. Okay, we're back now, I think. Chat will let us know pretty quickly. I can see myself frozen. We should come back. I'll just wait until they tell me we're back, and then I'll start talking, waxing lyrical about Wolves. Okay, we're back now. We're back. Okay, apologies for that. Like, obviously, I need to get even better internet than I have now. All those troubles I had, and now I still having problems. Yeah, I just think Wolves' defence is actually a little bit better. I mean, I don't want to underrate West Ham because they're just a good team anyway. And Antonio is really good as well. And I might make the switch. I just think that City are going to score more against Leicester than West Ham are going to do against Wolves. And Gundogan could be involved. But yeah, I might make the switch. I think it's quite close. I think most people would probably play Antonio, to be honest. I'm a little bit worried about Gundogan not starting, but the only thing I have with City players is if they don't start, I'm not really that worried about them coming on, to be honest. That's one thing. Maybe against Leicester.
I think West Ham are a force to be reckoned with this season. They've really impressed, and scoring 3 against Arsenal was genius, wasn't it? And even if they're going to, yes, maybe Wolves keep them out, maybe they do, but West Ham seem to be like really clicking at the moment. I just wouldn't bet against Antonio not getting on the score sheet. That would be my favourite, I reckon. I would go Antonio.
I see FPL Blackbox in the stream is saying the same thing. I'm going to assume that's Mark. There's no way that Az would be up this early watching FPL streams. Okay, some people saying the stream didn't stop, so it's a good job I didn't say anything I shouldn't do there. Otherwise, for the rest of my team, I've got to be honest. I think it looks great this week. I know people when they have a great team, they panic that it's going to go wrong. I'm really happy. I think the team looks great. I'm a little bit concerned over Salah because it's not. I know he's the top scorer in the league still, but his numbers this season have dropped off versus last season. And my only hope, I've backed him now, and I feel like I've got to keep backing him against Fernandes. And that was basically my call, him or Fernandes. And I'm just backing the long-term fixtures. I don't necessarily think that Arsenal is a great one to get back on track, but from next week it's good.
I remember we had a huge debate about that, which was weird because I'm a Liverpool fan, you're a Man United fan, and I was going Fernandes, you were going Salah. And it's nice that we've both kept both of them. But poor old Salah, I actually really hate not owning a single Liverpool asset. And the problem with Liverpool at the moment is their just conversion is just rock bottom. And that needs to increase. And it's going to affect all of the players in that team. Alexander-Arnold's like ridiculous for XGI at the moment. He's like 2.5, which is like 1.5 ahead of anyone else. He's created 3 big chances, but they're just not being converted because Liverpool, for some reason, have got a really, really big lack of confidence. And once they get back on the bike and start doing as they're doing, then I'm going to jump back on Liverpool. But I don't really want to wait for that bus to start going before.
Yeah, I think
bump on their assets.
I know what you mean. I neither do I. That's why I'm keeping Salah. I'm just going to back the fixtures. I mean, Villa, then Leeds. They basically play, apart from Man United and Arsenal this week, I think all their teams are in the bottom 7 or 8 for expected goals conceded, and they play like 6 of them. So it literally couldn't get any better, their fixture run. I mean, it probably literally could, but not much better. And I agree on Trent. I spoke about Trent a few weeks ago and how I thought, even just on the eye test, he just looks really good. But obviously I got shouted down because defensively Liverpool haven't been great. But who knows, with Fabinho back in midfield, and I know it's not Van Dijk and Gomez, but if you start to get a little bit of a centre-back partnership, that might help. So yeah, overall I'm happy. I mean, Chelsea defenders are obviously big this week. I've already got Rudiger. I just can't add Antonio. I've got the money to do it, but I just don't want to make that move. I'm not so hot on the fact that he's.
You mean Alonso, right?
Well, who did I say?
He said Antonio, I think.
Oh, sorry. I meant Alonso. I definitely meant to say
unless
Alonso.
I'm going bonkers.
No, I might have done. The only one I'm thinking about adding is Mendy for Martinez, but I think I need to commit to when I'm free hitting. Because if I free hit in 33, I might as well just do Martinez to Lloris instead and just get the extra fixture. So yeah, I really like that you have. Sorry, I really like that you have Tierney just subtly chilling out on your bench there. Someone just said in the chat, I've got no Man United. So last week in 29, I sold Cancelo and Wan-Bissaka for Dawson and Tierney, and they got 0 points for me combined for 29 because Tierney got 1 and Dawson got -1. But it's a long-term move. Like Tierney's fixtures from next week are ridiculous, and I didn't want to. In hindsight, I should have got Reguilon, but I just didn't know the double game week would be rearranged so quickly.
Get Reguilon and get punished by 4 minutes.
I know, but he got the same amount of points. And the fact that now he's going to be fit for Newcastle and Davis is missing out, that's like he is the pick now. And if I was picking a third Spurs player, he would be the one I would go for. I've already got Son and Kane.
To be fair, I really like your Dawson pick. He's probably really quite lowly owned, but he's got such heading, really, really strong heading possibility for those goals. Really, really proved it as well since he came in. So
yeah, I just didn't want to pay the extra for Cresswell. I want that money for attack. I just want to be able to be flexible. So it's taken me since game week 18 to take all that money off my bench and all that money out of my defence, but I'm finally there. Let's talk about Kane captain, right? We both have him. There's lots and lots and lots of talk in the community about going for Leeds players. I think most people are kind of not put off Bamford, but they're kind of hot on Rafinha right now. What's your thinking behind going Kane?
So if I was going to be pure data stats guy, I would go Rafinha, because his if you couple the XGI that he's done in the last 6 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever, that hasn't really changed, and it's exceptional. It's up there with the likes of Kane in terms of big attempts and small attempts. And he's coupled with playing against probably the worst defence we're seeing in the league by miles right now in Sheffield United. And we'll see on the graph in a minute when we look at that. But Sheffield United really, really got pounded by Leicester, and that really, really has exaggerated their defensive stats. So I think if you want to go Rafinha as a sort of differential punt, because Rafinha is one of those people that you think is really highly owned, but I think he's only at 16, 17% owned in the entire FPL world. So I think if you want to go Rafinha, it's absolutely acceptable, and there's lots of logical reasoning for doing that. Reason I'm going Kane is because he's just a proven FPL asset. He plays for arguably a better team. He's on penalties. He's playing against Newcastle, who haven't been in good form, and there's really trouble in that dressing room. Steve Bruce not getting the support that he needs from certain corners of that dressing room. I think Newcastle are probably maybe just as much as in trouble as Sheffield United in terms of just current form. So I'm not going to overthink it. I'm going to go for the heavily backed Kane, who is probably going to be really highly owned and captain. So I'm just not going to overthink it.
Yeah, I'm kind of saying, I've put your graph up. We'll talk about it in just a second. I agree on Rafinha. I just checked Rafinha's stats in the top 10k though. He's owned by 80% of all top 10k managers. So I think in active managers he probably is. He's actually higher owned than Bamford at this point. Sorry, wow. that was his effective ownership. Sorry, his ownership was 76%. Bamford's owned by 74%. So that's kind of, I'm a little bit surprised because I feel like Bamford was held for a long time early on. But yeah, it is what it is. Bamford obviously had that. He was flagged twice. That maybe probably didn't help. I'm kind of similar. Like the way I've been trying to pick my captains, I've really tried to not look too short term on stats for most part, not always. Like, I have fully seen how bad Sheffield United have been recently. I've spoken about this a lot. I wrote it in one of the articles that their expected goals conceded is like 14 over the last 6. And Crystal Palace is second with like 9.7 or something like that. So I think even if you took out that Leicester game, they would still be the worst defence over the last 6. And they're one of the worst over the whole season, sorry. Newcastle aren't that much better, really, over the whole season. And it's just Kane for me. I just think Kane's, like Rafinha's numbers are good. They're just not as good as Kane's over the season. And Kane's on penalties as well. It's boring, it's safe, whatever you want to call it. It's cowardly. I don't care. I've had him earmarked as captain for ages, and unless something major happens, I haven't been changing my captain. And I earmarked this one like 3 or 4 game weeks ago, so stick him.
I've had far too much excitement over the last 10 game weeks to continue the trouble. So I'm just going to happy to go back to boring Ted and Captain Kane again and be sensible for the rest of the season.
I will say for me, I didn't really have too many doubts, but the fact that Son is back now does kind of help my thinking, because I think that is quite big. I think he's been quite... I don't know if people have missed it, but if you look at his recent numbers, he's creating more chances than he is shooting. So that can only help Kane. And also, if they happen to be able to counter against Newcastle, if Newcastle try and come out and attack, then we know that combo, how good it's been this season.
Absolutely. Especially if Bale plays. If you've got Son, Kane and Bale, we saw what they did 3 or 4 game weeks ago. Son just started providing Kane and Bale every single big chance. He's created 6 big chances in the last 6, as opposed to 1 big chance for himself. So as you say, he's just becoming really creative. So hopefully Bale plays for me, and he can set up a few for Kane as well. But Newcastle is a great fixture, regardless.
Yeah. Well, I've got your graphic up now. It's a graphic. Talk us through it.
Yeah, so along the bottom, we've just got a team's attacking potential. So further to the right, we've got Man City, who are the best with XG over the last 6. And further to the top, we've got those teams playing against teams in game week 30 with really poor defensive stats. So at the top, we've got Leeds playing Sheffield United with really, really poor XG conceded. So top right means that team's expected to score lots of goals against their opponent. Bottom left, not so many. So yeah, we've got Leeds up there as the elephant in the room, expected to score probably quite a few against Sheffield United, as Leicester did. And it really worries me that Sheffield United still don't have a manager replacement for Wilder. So they're clearly a little bit lost, I reckon. Sheffield United and Leeds can definitely capitalise. Man City, they're still expected to score, a fair amount. I mean, Leicester haven't been secure at the back, by any means, as compared to the likes of Chelsea, for example. So yeah, I think Man City can definitely get a few there. It's the interesting ones. It's the West Ham, the Tottenham, just floating around. Like, I think if you removed the Leeds bubble, you shift everyone up, and then suddenly you look at West Ham, and they're like closest to the top right, and you go, wow, okay, Antonio, why not play him over Gundogan? And
well, Man City are further to the right. They're not as high up though, I guess.
Oh yeah, I guess it's 6 of one and half a dozen of the other. But I mean, even Arsenal, look at that. Liverpool really, really poor defensively. The number of big chances they've conceded recently is just terrible. So I think, Tottenham, West Ham, Arsenal, if you've got any of those assets, might not be a bad shout. Everton's a good one. I'm really worried about not owning Calvert-Lewin. And Joe on Scoutcast was stating about all of these headed chances that Crystal Palace tend to concede. And that was my justification of captaining Diagne last week. Oh, was it last week or the previous week? So Crystal Palace, they like to concede headed chances. Depending on the formation that Ancelotti goes with, whether they play 3 at the top. If he does play 3 at the top with Richarlison on the left, then Calvert-Lewin could do really well. And I kind of worry about not owning him. Same with Bamford, to be honest. I think they're both quite highly owned as well. Anyway, so yeah, back to the chart. And yeah, there's a Man United shaped hole there. Not really a hole, but
Bruno Fernandes, is that what you're telling me? You just can't score against Brighton.
It's one of those anomalies, though. Brighton are just serial underperformers when it comes to defence. They have amazing.
How long until the expected data regresses and they stop conceding? Could it be this week?
They did well in 29, didn't they? And we relied on the Brighton clean sheet. So happy days there, but their opponents weren't exceptional by any means. So yeah, I reckon Man United probably aren't as don't have as bad chances as that chart states. I think they probably will score against Brighton, but yeah, it's interesting nonetheless. Brighton seem to be on paper pretty good defensively. Is there anywhere else that you think sticks out that we could talk about?
Not really. I mean, obviously, Spurs versus Newcastle we talked about quite a lot. It's nice to see where that is. I agree. Personally, I've not been like. I've really tried to keep it simple this season. We're just looking at expected goals conceded, not worrying whether they're headed chances or whatever. And I just think Calvert-Lewin versus Palace just looks great. So I agree. Anyone that's got him left over is looking pretty good. And I just checked his top 10k ownership, 28%. So that might go up a little bit this week. I think a lot of people are probably still holding on to him because of the double. Southampton versus Burnley is interesting. I guess if Danny Ings is potentially back and playing, maybe. And also quite like the fact that it's actually Arsenal that are further to the right, isn't it, than Liverpool? Yeah. So maybe because I've seen a few. I've even seen people asking me whether they should bench Aubameyang, which seems crazy. I'm sure that's only a few people that are doing that, but it looks like a good time to play him.
Yeah, for sure. I would play Arsenal assets against Liverpool because just the form that Liverpool are in. And we just need to caveat, if you just put it on paper to the average Joe on the street, are Arsenal going to do well against Liverpool? Then they might say, oh, of course not, because Liverpool are really good. But recent form, Liverpool have been pretty poor and they haven't really been converting any chances. So even play your Arsenal defenders against Liverpool. I know, I agree. Like Southampton versus Burnley is an interesting one because I think I posted earlier in the week, Southampton have been really, really good for big chance conversion without Danny Ings. So clearly Shea Adams and the James Ward-Prowses of this world are really stepping up. So I think play your Southampton assets against Burnley as well.
Yeah, I think Man United versus Brighton is interesting. I think this potentially would have been a fixture or a week where people had originally earmarked for Fernandes captain, but I'd be interested to see his effective ownership. This might be one of the first weeks where he's played in a while where it's under 100 just because of Kane and Leeds, but I'm not sure.
I really hope so.
Yeah, I hope so too as a non-owner, although obviously I still hope we find a way to win without him, which is always difficult. We'll just start ending on the captaincy because I've seen a few people questioning my Kane over Rafinha. So like again, I know it's boring because you're not looking at recent stuff, but I'm trying to keep it simple. And if you look at non-penalty XG for the whole season, so like I am taking into account all of Rafinha's games, for example. Kane is better. I think he's around 0.69 and Rafinha's around 0.53. So Rafinha is great. Like, he is great. I had him really early on. I love the guy. But Kane is just more likely to get you a goal. And for a forward, that's so good for bonus. I also agree with the comments in the chat about captain and a midfielder. I always try and captain like De Bruyne or Fernandes or Salah where I can. But Harry Kane is my exception. Like, he is the only striker really where I would ever consistently look to captain him. Obviously, captain Bamford for game week 25, but that was a bit different. I should have gone Rafinha as well because he outscored him. But Kane, he's on penalties too, 90 minutes, guaranteed to start.
Exactly.
I just love Kane.
If Kane's fixture was slightly harder, then that might push me towards captaining Rafinha. But I think Newcastle it's not quite as good as Sheffield United, but I think it's definitely up there. So I just don't see why we should overthink it. If you want to make up some rank, maybe, and if you're top 200k and you want to make up some rank, then maybe go Rafinha because he's maybe going to be less owned in outside the top 10k.
Are you advocating using effective ownership to make your decision on captaincy? Is that what you're doing here?
No. Promise.
I should say I'm definitely not captaining Kane because I there's even a tweet from weeks ago that I said I was captaining Kane this week. So I think Kane's actually one of my top captains for the rest of the season, to be honest. Like 34 Sheffield United, 35 Leeds, plenty of time, double game week. So this is no different.
He's just in red hot form at the moment, isn't he? There's no point overthinking.
Yeah, he's just been great all season. It's the Kane of old, isn't it? We haven't had him for last season or the season before. We kind of ignored because Salah was just so good, but this season completely different. So look, I've got Rafinha. I'm happy to own him. I'm sure I'll be hoping for no points from him though, because I'm sure his effective ownership will be over 100 looking at his total ownership. But we'll see how it goes. Anything else you want to add before we jump off?
No, just best of luck, mate.
Yeah, good luck, everyone. Just to remind us, our teams, I'm being very boring, not making a transfer. I'm probably going to make 2 or 3 next week is probably my plan, including Diogo Jota. So I am going to probably go big on Liverpool before they start firing. That's my current plan anyway. I'm captaining Kane. I'm not going for Rafinha no matter what the chat says. I've actually got De Bruyne vice captain, so there you go. I don't, like I said, Schmick, I do prefer captain midfielders if I can. And then Ted's the same. No transfers. Going to keep Bale, although I'm sure he's going to and ah about it for the next 57 minutes. And then Kane captain as well. Thank you for watching. Make sure to hit that like button if you enjoyed it. Hit subscribe if you're new as well. Ted, thank you for joining me.
Pleasure. All the best, mate.
You too. And good luck, everyone. We will see you soon.